Another F1 2018 race, another stunner. What a season it has been so far, and Baku did not let that down. The fourth race of the season, arguably the best three races this season. Bahrain, China, Baku have all been absolutely world-class races. And what a result. What a surprise result we had. Spoiler warning slapped on this video, of course. Welcome to my race review of the 2018 Azerbaijan Grand Prix. The winner was Lewis Hamilton. Doesn't sound surprising, but after that chaotic race, it really was. Let's go through it as it unfolded rather than driver by driver. Lap 1, turn 1, really clean. Everyone kept their noses out of trouble. Turn 2, completely different story. The two Williams getting involved with a little carnage with a couple of the Force Indias. In the background, we had the Haas drivers getting involved, contact with the Sauber, and Fernando Alonso getting squeezed by Hülkenberg, and so rocking in between them. There was so much going on in the back of the pack. Further up, Ocon and Raikkonen were fighting for position heading in to turn 3. Raikkonen on the inside, Ocon on the outside. Ocon completely squeezed Raikkonen, so he had nowhere to go. Ocon was then pushed wide into the wall. He was out on the spot. Sorokin had lost his tyre. He was out on the spot. Safety car after 3 corners had been called out. All weekend, everyone had been banging on about this safety car that was going to happen. We didn't even complete one lap and the safety car was out, and it was shaping up to be an absolute classic, just like the 2017 Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Further down, Alonso got 2 punches on that McLaren, the front right and the rear right. He worked his way round back to the pits, along with Ericsson, who'd also sustained a puncture, and Raikkonen, who had sustained damage from that contact with Ocon. At the front, the order remained relatively the same. Vettel led from Hamilton, Bottas, then the 2 Red Bulls, with a feisty looking Sainz. Gasly had worked his way up as well. Hülkenberg too. Leclerc was getting in the mix as well. Great little scrappage going on in that midfield. Along with Lance Stroll, he'd also moved up into the points. It was so hard to keep track of where everyone was, but once we eventually got racing once again, good start from Vettel. When it wasn't the guys at the front doing the moving, it was the 2 Renault drivers really putting the 2 Red Bulls under pressure. So much so that Sainz got himself up into 4th, Hülkenberg into 5th. Madness from Renault, and I was really thinking, because if you didn't see my prediction, I predicted a Renault P3, and I thought, you know what, I've smashed this. I've absolutely smashed this. Renault looked really quick. And in the early stages, they did. They managed to turn on those tyres very quick compared to those Red Bulls. But it still looked like Vettel had the race under complete control. He really did. Eventually, there seemed to be issues with the 2 Red Bull guys. Their battery wasn't working as planned, although it appeared that their intersquabbling was the cause of that, rather than a concurrent actual issue with the car. Anyways, the Red Bulls started to then catch up with the Renaults. Hülkenberg went wide into the wall, out on the spot. Absolutely gutted for Nico. It was a great chance for a podium today, and if he'd have just held it in there, he very well could have. Anyway, Hülkenberg out meant Sainz was the lone Renault. Before Verstappen or Ricciardo could make a move, he dove into the pits and was one of the first guys to really make that switch, and that would pretty much cost him a chance of a podium, really. Everyone who went onto those soft tyres really seemed to struggle early on. So, this is the part of the race where everything sort of died down a bit. Vettel in control, Hamilton couldn't quite catch up with him, and Bottas was managing the gap to Hamilton. Behind them was the 2 Red Bulls, which was the main sort of cause of fighting on the track, and behind them you had the likes of Gasly, Stroll and Charles Leclerc. Leclerc, who had been smashing it all race. Gasly then, for some reason, just dropped off the face of the earth. No one ever mentioned it, but he was fighting there in the points, and all of a sudden, he dropped to the bottom. Now, whether this was a pit stop, but I think what it was, he must have run wide somewhere, because there were always yellow flags at Sector 1 for a certain amount of time, and The only real reason I can see for that is Gasly going wide somewhere, going off into the runoff area and coming back on. So, heading into the pit stop phases then, the order was Vettel from Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen, Ricciardo, Lance Stroll and Charles Leclerc. That was the order. Now, everyone was chopping and changing throughout this race. There was no clear strategy except the one stop was the strategy everyone was going for. There didn't seem to be a huge advantage on either tyre, so it was a bit, like I say, difficult to catch up with. The McLarens were further back down, along with the two Haas cars. However, Grosjean, starting from dead last, had moved his way up into the lower end of the points. But then it all happened. Then the major player happened. Vettel came in by this time, and Hamilton, which meant Bottas was out in front. Bottas, Verstappen and Ricciardo are all waiting for this safety car to save their race, give them a chance of the win, and it helped out one of those guys and not the other two. The two Red Bulls crashing in spectacular fashion down into turn 1. I'm very aware that F1 loves to throw these curveballs there, that whatever I say about this event is going to give me dislikes. And if you're thinking about doing it, pikey, absolute pikey. Anyway, I know you want to hear my thoughts on this incident. So, here we go. Verstappen is in front. So, any incident technically should be Ricciardo's fault if he's hitting him from behind. Ricciardo, being Ricciardo, goes for the dummy. He tried to go around the outside a few times, didn't quite make it work. He did put it off once, but then Verstappen got past him through their pit stops. Then, Bottas still stayed out, so he was the only one willing to wait for this safety car. The two Red Bulls heading into turn 1, Ricciardo on the outside, Verstappen then moves slightly to the right to cover him off. Ricciardo, then using Ricciardo's mind, thinks, oh, well, he's made that one move. You can't make two moves in the braking area. Ricciardo then moves back to go up the inside. Verstappen then veers slightly back to the left. Ricciardo, nowhere to go. He's either in the wall or in the back of Verstappen. He's right in the back of Verstappen, destroying the rear end of Verstappen's car. Both of them out on the spot, go flying down into the runoff area into turn 1. It was a mega crash. Absolutely mega crash. It was great to watch. But as you can probably guess through how I described those events, I do think it was Verstappen's fault. I think it's obviously a tough one, okay, because they're going at such quick speed. It's very similar, well, I say very similar, to the incident in qualifying between Gasly and Hartley. Slight movement of Hartley could have just exploded everything. Same with Verstappen. I think that slight tilt to the left at the very last second, that change in direction in the braking zone, which you can't do, and he did change direction in the braking zone. You can't do that. Ricciardo equally, perhaps a bit too ballsy, trying to go for that move, slammed right into the back of Verstappen, and that was Verstappen's corner. So 6 of one, half of the other, arguably. But if I was to put the blame anywhere, it would be Verstappen. I think he's got to learn from this. He's had this mistake before. He's been punished when he first came to Red Bull for moving in the braking area, and he's done it again. And he's on he needed a clean weekend. And I said in my preview that I felt this could be the day Verstappen went a clean weekend. Crashed in practice, crashed with his teammate in the race. He can't catch a break, and he's going to need to soon. Okay, this is 4 races down. He's had chances of winning every race. Arguably. Arguably, maybe not Australia, but things can happen. And he's not even allowed himself to have those chances. Last time out in China was his race. This race, arguably, it was the two Red Bulls that caused the safety car, which then made the whole race just explode into life. But of course I want to know your thoughts on that crash. Of course I do. And I think on Tuesday, I might bring out a video just focused on who is to blame for that crash, because that, for sure, it's fresh in the mind. but I've not seen the replay 100,000 times. So I want to just sleep on it, take a couple of days to think, but right now my thoughts are it's Verstappen's fault. Not 100%, of course, but still I'm leaning more towards Max Verstappen was the cause of that crash. So, safety car came out. Bottas, who hadn't pitted yet, came in for ultras. So did the majority of the field, except Sergio Perez, who'd worked his way into P5, I believe it was. Raikkonen, who'd been plumb last pretty much at the end of the first lap, was now into 4th. So, once they'd all pitted, behind the safety car, the order was Bottas, Vettel, Hamilton, Raikkonen, like I say, madness how he found his way up in 4th. P5, I believe, was Perez. P6, Romain Grosjean. P7, Charles Leclerc. 8th, Sainz. 9th, Stroll. And 10th was Fernando Alonso, who had 2 punches at the end of lap 1. And he always finds a way, Fernando, doesn't he? To just work his way up into the points. Anyway, we were getting ready to go racing again. The debris had almost cleared. And then, I can't believe he did it. Grosjean, in an attempt to warm up the tyres, lost the rear end while weaving into the barrier. I feel for him. I feel for Roman. So much. What an idiot, to be perfectly honest with you. I want to come clean. I used to be a big fan of Grosjean. When he moved to Haas, I wasn't so much. And there was promise for this season for Haas, and they keep on throwing it away. They keep on doing it. Today, it was Grosjean's fault. Grosjean had, in the race, had a stunning race. Absolutely smashed Magnussen. And it looked like the first race, Grosjean was finally going to score points. Finally, comfortably beat his teammate. And he threw it all away. To make matters worse, he then blamed it on Marcus Ericsson, which is just a joke. Ericsson was nowhere near him. Ericsson was nowhere near him. And when they asked what happened, he was like, "Oh, I think Ericsson hit me." No, Roman, he didn't. Ericsson did not hit you. Difficult day for Grosjean. Really could have been a strong haul of points and could have been a podium. It really could have been a podium, but it was not to be. And the safety car would come back out. But just a quick note, in my predictions for my driver lineups for next season, I did that at the very beginning of the season before we saw any of the changes or performances from drivers. I said that Grosjean would go to Ferrari. After this race, not a chance. The tiniest bit of hope he had of getting that seat has just gone. You can't be doing that. You can't be crashing your car under the safety car. You can't be doing that. It's just ridiculous. We're almost looking at a 2012 Romain Grosjean at the moment. What a torrid start to the season he has had. Not impressed at all. Not impressed. And for Haas, a weekend to forget again. They're miles down in the constructors, and their car, like we've been saying, it's arguably the 4th best on the grid. I don't think that now. I think already they're going to be losing out on this development race, and by the end of the season, they'll be regretting races like today and like Australia. Anyway, Grosjean was in the wall. Would the race restart? Would it restart? It looked like it was going to be close. And with 4 laps to go, I believe it was, it finally got underway. Bottas led from Vettel, Hamilton and Raikkonen. Heading down to turn 1, the 2 top teams in Formula 1, Mercedes and Ferrari, they're 4 drivers. Any of them could have taken P1 into the first corner. It was Vettel, surprisingly, who was the most ballsy. Did a dive bomb, a classic dive bomb, up the inside of Bottas, completely locked up, ran wide. Bottas, cheeky little switchback, back into P1. Hamilton got past Vettel. Raikkonen got past Vettel. Vettel flat spotted. Race ruined. It's so unlike Vettel to make a mistake like that. That's so uncharacteristic from the 4 times world champion. But it happened. That meant Perez could get past Vettel. And behind Vettel then was Charles Leclerc. Now at this stage, I thought hang on a second. Leclerc, who was on the Hypersoft, he could get past Vettel, who had destroyed his tyres, and in theory, he could get past Perez for P4. And Leclerc, can I just say now, what an incredible race from him. Maintained a cool head throughout. His pace all weekend was phenomenal, getting into Q2, staying in the points the whole race, and you know what? I really believed in him to get past Vettel and Perez at this stage. No one had a clue what was going to happen. No, this whole season has been to do with tyres and how teams can warm them up. Safety cars have also been a big factor this season. And no one knew who was going to be quick off this restart. But going in to, I believe it was 2 laps to go, Bottas led from Hamilton, Raikkonen, Sergio Perez was now in 4th, Vettel in 5th, Leclerc 6th, Sainz 7th. And then it happened. Going down the main straight, just about to hit 2 laps to go, bang! Bottas's tyre explodes over the line. He ran over some debris, which is stupid. That the safety car was out for about 10 laps and they didn't even move this massive chunk of debris. Baffles me. Absolutely baffles me that was still on the circuit. And ruined Bottas's race. There was no way he was getting back round, get a new tyre on, and be anywhere near the points. He retired on the spot, which meant Hamilton now led the race. Now Hamilton had a pretty appalling race, another one. He's really not looked fantastic this season, and this was another race that it just didn't look great, and yet he was now in P1 with 1.5 laps to go. Raikkonen in P2. Perez was now P3. Vettel P4 somehow, and Leclerc P5. And I thought, oh my God, Charles Leclerc, his first ever points, could get on the podium. What am I seeing here? What am I seeing? It's just like Lance Stroll last year. But then, one of my favourite drivers, Carlos Sainz, snatched that dream away from Leclerc. Sainz was now in P5, and I thought, oh my God, Sainz can do this. You've got to bear in mind, in my head, I'm thinking Vettel's tyre he's blown that up himself. You know, he flat spotted that. Those tyres aren't working, and so I was thinking, these guys can get past Vettel. Perez was on the super softs, so I thought, well, Sainz is on the hypers. Anyway, it didn't happen, and eventually the race ended with a Hamilton win, Raikkonen P2, and Sergio Perez P3. His first points of the season. I believe it's Force India's first podium since Azerbaijan 2016, I believe it was. Or did they get a podium was Russia later on in that season? I think it was 2016 Azerbaijan. Perez's and Force India's last podium, and it's made Perez not only the most successful Mexican driver of all time in Formula 1, but he's surprisingly the only driver to have more than one podium in Baku. That is ridiculous. How is that? How is that? Hamilton, this was his first. Hamilton's best result, I believe, was 6th around Baku before today. Raikkonen had never been on the podium. Last year was Ricciardo, Bottas and Stroll, and the first ever race was Rosberg, Vettel and Perez. So, ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Going through, then, the full order. Like I said, Hamilton, Raikkonen, Perez. And can I just point out as well quickly, Hamilton, I've never ever seen someone so upset about winning and sort of gutted. I think he was gutted for Bottas, because Bottas had done a very clever strategy and deserved to win. I mean, Vettel obviously, Vettel deserved to win. Vettel monstered the whole weekend. Raikkonen arguably should have been on pole, but Vettel in the race was a class above, and that one mistake into turn 1 cost him the whole race. So he'll be gutted. Vettel was ended up P4. P5, Carlos Sainz, his best result for Renault, his second best result ever in Formula 1. Gutted, he didn't quite get that podium. But still, a solid result from Sainz. Good heap of points there for himself. P6, Charles Leclerc. Hats off to him. Hats off to him. What a race. What a weekend. P7, I don't know how he does it. Fernando Alonso. How's he done that? 2 punches on lap 1. and he's still P7. He always finds a way, does Fernando. Ridiculous. P8, Lance Stroll. Really kick-started his season last year here in Azerbaijan, and he's done it again here this year. Great race from Stroll as well. Definitely a contender for driver of the day. P9, Stoffel Vandoorne. P10, Brendon Hartley. Now these two have had a weekend from hell. Vandoorne especially, absolutely nowhere in qualifying, nowhere in practice, nowhere in the race, and he still ended up with 2 points. Now, again, it's like Alonso. How he's done this, I don't know. It's some sort of magic. And Hartley, I didn't see him once, or the only time I saw Hartley this weekend was in qualifying when he made that ridiculous mistake and Gasly nearly flew off into the streets of Azerbaijan. Like, I have no idea how Hartley's got a point, but he has. Ericsson was P11, P12 was Gasly, who, like I said, early on was high up in the points, but then sort of drifted away later on. I'll have to find out why that was. Very confusing. And the last of the runners was Kevin Magnussen. Had a difficult day, contact on the opening lap, never really managed to recover. Only 13 drivers finished out of 20. That is mad. That is absolutely bonkers. It really is. Now, let's get into the points, the scoring system I give the drivers sometimes, as in my driver of the day, but also my scoring system for the overall race. Let's start it off with, what do I give this race out of 10? We've had 2 9s so far this season, I believe. China and Bahrain were a 9. And Australia, I believe, I gave a 6, I think it was. Now, Azerbaijan. Great start. Fantastic end. Middle was a bit poor. And I'm thinking back to the previous 2 races. Is it as good as them? The answer is yes, it is. It's another 9. The third 9 in a row. The third 9 of the season. Can you believe it? And after Australia, when I gave that a 6, I thought, you know, it's not going to be the worst race of the season, probably. We're going to have a few 7s, a few 6s. Not 3 9s in a row. That is pretty mad. Like I say, the middle bit was a bit dull, to be perfectly honest with you, but the end was just ridiculous. Edge of your seat stuff, the stuff you want to see in Formula 1, and the beginning as well, the carnage. Very different race, can I just add as well, to Bahrain and China. Bahrain and China, very strategical races. But this race was just a monster carnage race, as I would call it. That's how I would describe Azerbaijan 2018. And it gets another 9 from me. And it's going to be so tough at the end of this year picking the top 5 races. Last year it was relatively easy. And the top 5, or the worst 5 races, was relatively easy as well. This year it could be very difficult. So fingers crossed. The season continues like this. It's been mega so far. The best in years. So fantastic stuff from Azerbaijan. And to round it off today, driver of the day. And for me, there's only one man that can get driver of the day, and that's Charles Leclerc. Completely battered Ericsson this weekend. Completely battered half of the field in terms of he's arguably in the worst car. Nearly got into Q3, and in the race was in the points the whole way through. And nearly managed to squeeze onto the podium, but still a P6. Monstrous effort from Leclerc. Honourable mentions, I would say Vettel, absolute masterclass today. Bottas as well, and Lance Stroll would be, you know, my honourable mentions. Even Sainz, good strategy in the end, a little bit lucky, but some good overtaking as well from Sainz against the Red Bull boys. So Sainz probably my second place. My first is Charles Leclerc. So next thing I need to do is take a nap. Just work out what has just gone on. Just sit back for a minute and just take that all in. Watch the highlights when they come out, of course. What a race. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments section below. Obviously, I want to know who you thought was at fault for the Red Bull crash. Actually, I'm going to do a poll right now in the top right-hand corner. You can vote for who you think was at fault for the Red Bull crash. You can also vote just underneath that who you thought was driver of the day. I'll probably put 4 options there: Leclerc, Sainz, Vettel and Bottas. I want to know your thoughts, and in the comment section below as well. Guys, thank you so much for watching once again. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.